Morning YouTube, William here. The insanity continues. We've got our Massey Ferguson 510 tore down. Yesterday we took the throat off and the butt off just so we could clean the thing. Of course the tires, which are over there. I haven't got all my small parts washed yet. I'm going to take off a few more shields this morning just to get behind them, like our air screen shields. And then in the cab there is the header control box shield. I want to take it off. In the way of things we're going to do to this, we're going to change the rasp bars, going to change the knives in the straw chopper. Going to change the belts, of course, because they're old and dry. And work on our wooden blocks. They're well wore. Been turned 3 and 4 times. It's not a big deal with that, just a hole saw and a hardwood, whatever it is. Somebody had packed the butt full at one time and beat in our center 3 straw walkers, so those will be coming off, and get those pounded out, get it correct again. Any welding I need to do. Remove some of the weights. We don't have a 6-row corn head. We don't need that much weight on the back. And build a custom battery box. And of course check all of our elevator chain tensions. Just standard, get it back up into operating procedure and condition. You just gotta start in and keep changing stuff until you get her all done. Don't know if we'll get the air going in this unit this year or not, but we'll try if we don't run out of time. And eventually we're going to go to the modern style head with the U2 reel. It'll still be a mechanical drive. It won't be the hydraulic driven reel, but it'll at least be a more modern head with a better floating sickle than the older ones had. 8 hours or so of washing, but we finally got it clean. Of course, here's more of those belts that just have to be replaced, and we like to replace the radiator hoses because that's an original. It had red paint all over it, but the steam cleaner took the paint off. Finally got it clean. This underneath the motor was completely caked full. This was about an inch or so deep in just pummy and old oil. And you can see it all on the ground here. I mean, just crud everywhere. Washed all the angles. And I gave it a preliminary wash last night. And with this really long wand that we had for years. It was like 4 feet or so. And I went to the shop and I made this little bitty short wand. I have to have this plastic handle on here because it gets real hot with our steam generator. We just finally got it clean after all this time. Now we start on the parts. I got a new table elevator chain coming, and this one was pretty wore and all the paddles were loose, and you don't want that baby coming apart. And you can just see how dirty and grimy everything is. That's red underneath of there. It's all red. That's to be expected with a combine this old. It's had 30 or 40 years of leaking hoses and oil spilt in it, and bean pummy and corn dust and everything else sucked up in it. Morning YouTube, William here. Finally got done washing. It takes about 2 days to wash them thoroughly. I went up to Arthur this morning and looked at a parts 550. We're contemplating buying the entire combine. It's got a set of chrome main cylinder bars, and there's barely any wear on the bolt heads. They were $350 for a new set. I'm contemplating whether I want to put them in or not. $350 sounds cheap for a little guy like me to never have to touch it again in my lifetime. And the 550 had a high inertia cylinder. I'm not sure if these will cross over. We're going to take one off and take it up there and look at it at dinner time. And they were a hydro unit, and my hope is to get the black box and the controls off of the 550 and get to a modern style header control instead of the old mechanical. We go to the electronic one. Once again, they were a hydro, so I'm not sure if they will work for me or not. Now that it's all thoroughly washed, we're going to reinstall our tires, get it fired up, and back it into the shed and put it in position for the final time, and then uninstall the tires and put it back up on the stands, and then the work finally begins after 3 days. Okay, ran into a bit of a problem while me and Charlie were going to look at and buy that 550. My friend, I had him taking off our RAS bars, and I didn't tell him that I just wanted the RAS bars taken off. So by the time I got back after a couple of hours, he had everything off of the spiders, which wasn't a big deal. Probably lucky that 2 of the bolts he was not able to get loose, so I didn't lose my correct sequence, if you will. I don't know if these were balanced, but there was 2 bolts that I had to blow with a torch, and I could also tell that I still had the correct sequence because under the flat small RAS bars that never seem to wear, they're flat on the backside, there are these small rounded spacers to follow the contour of the spiders, whereas these broken pieces of steel, they were made in a break, were rounded on the back. You could tell that there was a square on every one of these. So I'm just following the manual on installing these, where you put one in the 12 o'clock position, flip your cylinder over, and put one on the 6 o'clock position. Also in the manual, you can just barely tell that all of these holes are lined up all the way across the spiders. I'm not sure what those holes were for, whether they were for a puller or something to that effect, but they are in the manual and they are lined up. Also in the manual, once I get the RAS bars on and everything is tight, it talks about using your balancing holes, and you will achieve this by turning your cylinder 1/8 of a turn, and if it rolls to the bottom, then you are unbalanced. It talks about this in your manual in depth. These small RAS bars are sloped. You want your narrow end to be turning down into the cylinder to begin the thrashing process. And these are particular in that they have right grooves and left grooves. When you sequence these, you'll put a right one in the 12 o'clock position, then put a left one in the 6 o'clock position. When putting something back together like this, I like to go above and beyond. I use grade 8 bolts, this will focus, and I like to buy my bolts from not just your standard Harbor Freight. I like a fasten-all bolt, because if something like that comes loose, it has the potential to destroy the innards of your combine. Never a fun day. Alright, a beautiful fall morning here. about 7:45 in the morning. Put all these back together, and I left them all loose until my rasp bars arrive, because I was able to just barely get these last ones in without tweaking the bolts or moving the holes slightly. So I'll wait to tighten everything up and check for balance after the rasp bars come in. Today I am going to do the re-thrash elevator return auger slip clutch. It's really funky looking. It's actually welded so it wouldn't slip. Every combine we've ever had, we've had to change this. And you can't see it very well, but that Fafner bearing housing is all bent and contorted in there. Got our slip clutch off. Here is your typical farmer hack. The slip clutch is slipping. Well, let's just weld it solid. I don't know if they couldn't get it tight enough, or they had a wore out belt possibly. I don't know. Looks like it has excellent meshing. I still have a new one on order because you're here, you might as well replace it. But that's your saving grace on this. And here is that that Fafner bearing housing that's kind of pushed out. Just like in our last video, we love to put the wrench sizes on places you're going to be back into. This is a belt tensioner, another tensioner idler pulley, and that just saves you countless hours running back and forth to the toolbox. Okay, we found the culprit. Figured out why this is all bent and contorted. They did not put the correct bearing on. This is a flat-backed bearing. I don't know how well you can see that. Whereas every standard Fafner will have a rounded outer race. I don't know how well that'll turn up, but that's why this has looked janky this whole time. This is the bearing I've already cut off from the other side. You can see how well it fits in. I'll show you the other side. Not sure what we want to do about this gear. It has a little bit of slant on it, but it would run a long time, to be truthful. Okay, got our returns auger out. Like I said, this gear is a little slanted. Just got off the phone with Kuhn's Equipment, and they said that that was $171 just for that gear. I may go after it, or I may run it. I'm not sure yet. This is the culprit right here, why this was all kind of funky and janky in there. This bearing had spun. There's just a slight divot there, not very much. But I think in order to get this back up to proper operating condition, we'll have to take that to a machine shop and have it built up. This cross auger was not available through Massey anymore. However, they would sell you the flighting, which I think you could find at any standard welding shop probably. My flighting is actually like new, not sharp. I have yet to find a sharp auger on this combine. Every one of them seems to be in decent shape, which is a good indication of low hours. I have a working theory why the top of the butt of this 510 looks like it has all these hammer marks on it, like someone was hammering on it from the inside, but there's none on the sides, to where why would this be dented? There's no evidence of it ever being dented. My working theory is that this happens when whoever had it had the rear end packed full of corn stalks and beat these straw walker ends in. I think the corn stalk just set in there like a piston and kept ramming the top as it was going. could be something for someone to look at if they were ever looking at purchasing a 510 or a 300 or 410 of this vintage. Alright, we got our first belt on, installed nice and tight. Able to outsource it. It was a Pix C144. Now I am working on taking off the Variator belts, and then we're going to have this put new bearings in, the Variator. Happy Labor Day. We've got our main poly V belt off of the motor. That's your main output shaft right there. Back into there. It was a little bit of a trick. Charlie tackled that over Sunday, and had to take this belt back off. We've got both of our grain elevators, chains pulled. Gonna put all new in. It's gonna be about $800 or so. There's that one, and then you have the return elevator chain over there. Charlie said someone told him, or he heard from a guy, that this was very common. The end of our Variator cylinder broke off. I wasn't abusing it, getting it out of the Variator housing here. I was just tapping on it with a screwdriver and a hammer, and it just went tink, and that's all she wrote. Here's the piece over here. Right there it is. I don't know if it was actually stressed. You can kind of see where it wasn't connected all the way. Possibly a flaw from the factory, and I finally pushed it over the edge. Also getting all these belts off, our variable fan speed here. Got our main thrashing belt off. And we got our thrashing clutch off. The dogs are very wore. We're going to have those replaced. And we've got another poly V belt that's just shot and gone. I'm working on that right now, but I thought I'd make a quick video. Getting kind of late here. We're going to have this throw-out bearing redone. It's pretty free and loose. I like a nice tight bearing. And here, if I can get this, the dogs are very wore. You can see there, that's supposed to be symmetrical. It's got a nice lip on it right here. Right there's a nice lip, and then here, very nice lip on there. So we'll probably have the dogs replaced. Don't know if we'll do that ourselves or have our local dealer do it. But we're making progress, and here's another thing. I wished I would have took all of the shields off. You can just see, you just got to get every little angle, and even there, which of course you can't really take that off handily, but that's just black, nasty, oily, pummy nastiness.